Welcome back, Year 2, to our second topic lesson of the week. We're going to continue looking at Vikings. So let's start with the Vikings' diet. Vikings ate what they grew on the farms, or what they could hunt, fish, or gather. So they had stew, bread, fruits, porridge and dried fruit, fish and meat. They had honey, which was the only sweetener they had. They used this to make a drink called mead, which they are very famous for. When a Viking died, he needed to be sent off to Valhalla in the correct manner. So Vikings were buried with everything their families thought they would need in the afterlife. Ordinary Vikings were buried with their swords or their favourite brooch, while the wealthiest men and women were buried in ships to carry them to the next world. These were crammed full of belongings from clothes and weapons to kitchen goods and furniture. Horses, dogs, cats, and even slaves were killed and laid to rest with the dead person. The ships were then covered with mounds of earth, or they were set on fire. So a Viking warrior had to follow his lord or king into battle, or on a raid or expedition. As a member of the loyal band of followers, known as a lid, a Viking could be called to fight at any moment. In battle, Vikings fought on foot. Some didn't wear much armour, while others wore chainmail coats, but most relied on a round wooden shield for protection. Warriors typically fell into two groups: the berserkers, meaning bare shirt, as they wore bare skins, and the All-Heathen Nor, wolf hides, as they were wolf fur. Even women were warriors and known as shield maidens. Now, the age of the Vikings is generally considered to have been between 700 AD to 1100, during which time they packed in an impressive amount of raiding and pillaging, developing an unrivaled reputation for bloodthirsty aggression. Indeed, the word Viking means a pirate raid in Old Norse, so it's fair to say that they were, by definition, a violent bunch. Of course, such characterizations are never wholly accurate. The Vikings weren't all vicious raiders. Many came to settle peacefully, trade, or just explore. As our list proves, many of the most prominent Vikings were pretty brutal characters. We're going to take a look at some famous Vikings. Our first famous Viking we're going to look at is Bjorn Ironside, who was a Norse Viking chief and legendary king of Sweden. According to the 12th and 13th century Scandinavian histories, he was the son of a very famous Viking king, Ragnar Lothbrok. He lived in the 9th century. He's famous for his raids in France, England, and along the Mediterranean coastline. And then we have Eric the Red. Now, Eric the Red is a figure who embodies the Vikings' bloodthirsty reputation more completely than most. Ultimately, Eric ended up finding Greenland, but that was only after he'd been banished from Iceland for murdering several men. His father had previously been exiled from Norway, where Eric was born, for murder, so violence and exile clearly ran in the family. Now let's take a look at Leif Erikson. As claims go to fame, Leif Erikson isn't half bad. Leif is generally considered to have been the first European to set foot in North America, a full 500 years before Christopher Columbus. He was the son of Eric the Red. Leif is thought to have arrived in the New World around 1000 AD, having ventured off course en route to Greenland. Now we have Freydis Eriksdotter. As a child of Eric the Red, Freydis proved she was just as much her father's daughter as her brother Leif Erikson, who was his son. Legend has it that while exploring North America with her brother, she single-handedly chased off natives with a sword while she was pregnant. She was a warrior just like her father and her brother. Now the most famous Viking of all, Ragnar Lothbrok. Now we know he existed, but very little is truly known about him, as most of our sources are from poetry or sagas and legends. Now, he's the first name to come out of Viking history. He was Swedish, but he took over Kattegat and became king of Norway. Bjorn Ironside is one of his sons, and he also had a son called Ivar the Boneless, who we'll look at now. So Ivar the Boneless is another son of Ragnar Lothbrok. Ivar supposedly owes his nickname to a condition that caused his legs to fracture easily, making his fearsome reputation all the more impressive. So Ivar the Boneless was known to be a berserker champion Norse warrior, remember the bearskin fighters? And he would fight in a trance-like fury. He's best known for invading several Anglo-Saxon kingdoms with his two brothers and taking over Russia. And then we have Eric Bloodaxe. So he's born into the Viking lifestyle. Eric Bloodaxe was one of the many sons of Norway's first king, Harald Finehair. He is said to have participated in bloody raids across Europe from the age of 12 and quickly learnt that violence was the most effective way to distinguish yourself in the Viking community. Eric, whose real name was in fact Eric Haraldsson, gained his nickname by murdering all but one of his brothers. Then we have Harald Hardrada. Hardrada translates as hard ruler, a reputation Harald lived up to with his aggressive militaristic approach to leadership and a tendency to settle disputes very brutally. He is widely considered to have been the last great Viking ruler, taking the Norwegian throne in 1046 and presiding over a period of peace and progress. He died in a very famous battle, the Battle of Stamford Bridge in England, when his invading Viking army was defeated by King Harold's surprise attack. Now let's finish the lesson with some Viking facts. Now, Bluetooth technology is named after Harald Blantan, in the 10th century Viking king, whose last name translates to Bluetooth. Whether or not he had literal Bluetooth is a debate, but he was renowned for peacefully bringing people together from different lands. The symbol on the Bluetooth logo is also Blantan's initials in ancient runes. Vikings used ravens to navigate. They brought ravens aboard their ships, then released them to sail in the same direction to find the land. The raven was so important to them that it became the symbol on their flag. It's also a symbol for the god Odin. Now, Vikings didn't wear horned helmets. It's an old stereotype based on fiction. This is the only complete Viking-era helmet that's ever been found. Now, Vikings sold narwhal tusks as unicorn horns for centuries during medieval times, cementing the European belief in unicorns and leading to the characteristic portrayal of unicorns having long, spiral horns. So we could say unicorns come from the Vikings. Now, I hope you enjoyed the lessons and found the Vikings very interesting. Now, please take some time to research more into the Vikings. It's a fascinating history of fascinating characters. Now, take care, Year 2, and I'll see you soon.